Christina, Synergetic Mind, November 2nd, 2024. Synergetic Mindful Intuitions Anticipatory Design Science Resource refers to our Buckminster Fuller Synergetics' highest integrity of engagement. When consciousness is not overly inundated by the contemporary relative insanity that is technically attempting to control the universal communications process, please copy-paste provided links for your research convenience. Starting with table of contents. The tip of 4 fingers placed on a surface, a blank page, where 4 points can be drawn, gives to the discerning curiosity a visual of the invisible intervals. Invisible because a scribed line is yet to connect the dots on the page. The points that could be referred to as 4 similar point-toable events. But since systemic thought, human imagination, its brain's neuronal circuits, and consciousness evolution's metaphysical intellect involve anticipatory design science momentarily to satisfy an inherent compulsion, correlate and generalize myriadly briefest transient reviews of the observed articulations, then awareness ought more clearly signify the relative sanity, not insanity, as humans communicate what thus far is known. 4 points: systemic thought, human imagination, brain's neuronal circuits, metaphysical intellect. Such cognition and recognition require awareness of self-regenerating structural integrity that can be relied on for conveying integral purposes of our humanity's coexisting support of life on Earth. Oddly, though, popularized disseminations insist on referring to an authority, which typically is a book of words. The older, supposedly, the better, because the ancient mentality, the lesson learning of so-and-so, whose profound wisdom may have saved the tribe, the clan, the community from any number of foreseeable problems, was based on trial and error, experimental observations, in a semblance of finite encapsulation in undifferentiated angles and frequencies as their lessons were learned. As it turns out, we are now in the 3rd decade of the 21st century, which is more than 2,000 years of the AD era, advantaged by the most advanced book, which is Bucky Fuller Synergetics, that for technological competitive reasons has been somewhat repressed, by the internet that prefers exploiting the universal communications process for profit motivations. Those exploitations appeal to excitable anticipation with a promise of monetary rewards correlating to those achievements. However, such endeavors do not explain how metaphysical intellect, synergetic mind defines frequency in terms of interval. As we can read in Synergetics 1033.601, defining frequency in terms of interval requires a minimum of 3 intervals between 4 similar events. Therefore, the least technologically brilliant examples of 4 similar events, 4 fingertips on a blank page or chalkboard, any surface can represent and demonstrate 4 points and 3 intervals. Of course, those 4 fingertips held in the air as the hand is outstretched can also demonstrate 3 intervals, but on the page is where 3 lines can be scribed between points, straight across or in a wave, a linear pattern, that nonetheless are 3 intervals as an introduction to future understanding of what at minimum is between 4 similar events. The events, as systems, require awareness of what the minimum system is, which we already know topologically is a tetrahedron that consists of 6 interrelationship vectors between 4 vertexes, which are centers of closest packed equiradius spheres, and the system's 4 triangular openings. Defining frequency is the confounding mystery that no ancient books, especially holy books, clarified. So, of course, 21st century humanity cannot expect to discern essential knowledge concerning frequency in terms of cycles, which ought to be of great importance since everything occurs in cycles of time and not from that referential authority. A minimum of 2 cycles is a requirement of defining frequency. Time requires cycles which we do not ordinarily think of, as each 24-hour cycles 3 times 8 hours transpire, some of which is for work, play, study, sleeping, and all the essential survival functions for a whole lifetime of our individual life on Earth. Human life has existed for millions of years. Not needing to know the intricate variables of angular conceptioning, it became easier simply to reiterate admonitions, hopes, promises by referring to what someone said and did to save the day, and all survival implications without differentiating what eventually increases the tolerance magnitudes of the residual inaccuracies of the reenacting articulations by the observer in hopes of reducing those reenacting tolerance magnitudes of observation and articulation. It is almost the rudest awakening from such deeply embedded ignorance to suggest that we can be conceptually aware of angles, not angels, independently of experiential time. Doing so requires synergetic mind's metaphysical conceptuality. Naturally, differentiating metaphysical from physical is a preliminary step in the process of adjusting a priori thought to a total reality of universal principles. So too is differentiating ancient mentality and primitive tribes from unfrequenced angular topology, which is primitive. To say primitive, conceptuality is pre-time size initially seems irrelevant to the most egregious problem considerations until, that is, synergetic mind imagines an example for early education which 4 fingers as points on a page, or holding the open hand for imagination to picture 3 intervals as a rudimentary explanation of primitive dimensionality. It also validates awareness of metaphysical universe and encourages potential contributions to TUCP, the Universal Communications Process, that eventually can be generalized content. It is the disseminated generalized content that induces metaphysical generalized conceptioning fields of thought throughout the universal communications process as humans acknowledge consciousness evolution's time and size physical reality, initiating consciously coordinated thought with frequency, which is differentiated from primitive, unfrequenced, angular topology. Concerns of epistemography must always be forefronts of consciousness evolution's furthering potential integrations and differentiations, which ought not be ignored by specializing authorities who are always in the process of not fully knowing what metaphysical explorations in the geometry of thinking eventually discovers. See Synergetics 527.70. Until next time, thank you from Christina, Synergetic Mind.